Welcome back, fight fans. We're back. It's a new year, new card. It's going to be a nice short one. Let's just get right into it. Next card, obviously, first card of the year, UFC Vegas 67, back in Vegas. And then, of course, next week, we've got the first pay-per-view back in Brazil for the first time in a few years. Can't wait for that. Little bit of a weird card here. Originally, of course, supposed to be Gastelum and Imavov. I forgot the name there for a second. Gastelum, Imavov. Then Gastelum, weird injury. Don't really know how that happened. Didn't really hear much explanation about how that happened so close to the fight. But then, of course, Strickland jumps in, gets another main event, the second main event in a row for him. Maybe, I was going to say maybe a better fight. I would say more a competitive fight, probably less entertaining fight. But yeah, more competitive makes more sense for the top of the division. So I'm not sure if it's better necessarily, but definitely more interesting on the competitive side of things for sure. And then of course the worst part of it, which would be Shavkat and what's the name? Geoff Neal. I was gonna say Neal Magny. The names get me mixed up all the time. Geoff Neal and Shavkat, which should have been the main event in the first place, that also gets canceled and moved all the way to March. So that one sucks. Yeah, so not really the way we were expecting to start the year, of course. But honestly, there's still a few fights here that are, worth the watch, that's for sure. And we'll get right into that. The main card, we'll jump right into that. And that opens with Umar Nurmagomedov and Raoni Barcelos, which is actually, I would say, one of the most exciting fights on the entire card. I need to get this out of the way so I can get my odds open, of course. And I also need my banner. Where's my banner? There it is. And we will look at Bet99 for those odds in a bit. But of course, I'll go through the pick first. Not really a whole lot to say. And maybe that'll be obvious when we get to the odds themselves. And maybe you'll see why it maybe not really necessarily a hard pick. That being said, I think the odds wildly in the favor in one direction. I'm not really sure why they would be that high. They seem a little bit high for me, but that being said, I can't agree with who the odds are going. I mean, I can't disagree with the direction that it's going, that's for sure. 15-0 Umar Nurmagomedov. Barcelos, a little bit of a, not necessarily doing all that well recently. Lost to Victor Henry, which was, I mean, at the time seemed like, oh, wow, this new guy, Victor Henry, he's so good. And then we see, oh, Victor Henry gets absolutely dominated by somebody else in the last fight. I mean, and then we see Barcelos have some problems as well. kind of makes you think, we might have been a little bit too high on Barcelos, maybe a little bit. I think he is very talented, but is he on the level of Umar Nurmagomedov? I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, yeah. Like I don't know if he's gonna get a finish. He might. He definitely might. There's a distinct chance that he could get well, I don't know. I don't know what kind of finish he would get though, because Barcelos is good on the ground. He's also really good on the feet. Umar also very good in both areas. Can he get a finish? Yeah, I mean it's plausible, but I think a decision is more likely. That's the way that I've been leaning with it on this one. But yeah, definitely got to go with the heavy favorite in this case, Umar Nurmagomedov. Definitely going in that direction. The odds, bet 99, like I said, minus 1,000 right now. Like I said, maybe a little bit too one-sided. I'm not gonna say I don't think it deserves to be that high. I think, we're talking about minus 350, minus 400, and I would be comfortably putting money on that. But minus 1,000, where's the room on that? There's no profit on that whatsoever. That just seems a bit weird. I With things like that, you don't even really put them into parlays. I mean, minus 1,000, especially when it's not even like anybody crazy. Like we're not talking about, Amanda Nunes fighting somebody else. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about bantamweights that aren't even, you know, they're ranked, but they're not like, oh, it's not number 1 going against number 20, It's a little closer than that. I don't like the odds on this one. Even though I do agree with the favorite here, there's no money on this whatsoever. So yeah, I'll be keeping out of that one. But the over under is where it gets interesting, of course, because like I said, he really does have a chance at getting a finish. And I mean, especially when you consider minus 1,000. Minus 1,000, and they're favoring the over on this one, over 2.5, minus 260. I mean, when you see that big of a favorite, you got to think a finish is at least somewhat likely. So, I mean, under 2.5, plus 190 right now, plus 190. If you're talking about him being a minus 1,000 favorite, I mean, you might as well put some money on under 2.5 at plus 190. Bizarre betting line there. You don't normally see that kind of thing. So that's really interesting. I might be throwing money on the under 2.5 plus 190. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot going on with that line, honestly, because there's no reason to include it in much of anything at minus 1,000. Next fight. By the way, I should say the rest of the main card, much closer in terms of the odds. They're almost dead even, actually, all 4 of them after this. So definitely a lot more room on this one. And by the way, I don't even think that this next one is really all that close. So there is definitely a lot of room for profit on this one. Ketlin Vieira, Raquel Pennington. Um, I just think that there's a pretty clear favorite here, and I'm actually surprised that this one isn't a lot higher. Because the odds, like I said, almost dead even. I would have thought it would have been fairly heavily favoring Ketlin Vieira, because that's what I have. I mean, I do think Pennington's good. I picked her a couple times in the past couple years where I believe she was the underdog, and I did get it right because I think she was clearly the right choice there. But in this case, you know, Vieira 31, so she's slightly younger. In this case, they're pretty close, but I think you're kind of in 2 different stages of careers here. Vieira is very much the one going forward and up. Pennington kind of stagnant. I wouldn't say she's getting just, I don't think she's ending her career at all by any means, but I do think, okay, we're probably not talking about like, oh, can she get a title? Can't not, we're not really talking about her getting a title. Whereas Vieta, we think, okay, maybe Nunes is kind of nearing the end, so maybe Vieta is the next one to jump in. That's kind of what the conversation is going to start being. Um, yeah. And then, of course, you look at their last couple of wins. I mean, Vieta, although I will say, and I wrote that down here, questionable wins, because even the Tate one, I thought she did beat Tate. It was close. I mean, there were some questions online. I kind of thought she won after rewatching it again, but it was pretty close. It definitely was not a blowout by any means with Tate. And then, you go to Holly Holm, who I thought Holm was gonna just dominate, to be honest. And I gotta say, she kind of did. I mean, that was one of the really, really questionable cards of the year. And I actually completely forgot about that when it came down to picking. Well, I actually didn't even pick a worst card of the year or a worst, judge's worst decision of the year. I mean, clearly the answer is pretty obviously the Patty fight, but I gotta say that one with Holly Holm was baffling to say the least. That was clearly a second place that honestly I actually just completely forgot about until now when I was thinking about that when I wrote down the fact that she beat Holly Holm. I gotta say that was definitely one of the worst decisions of the year too. So, but that being said, 5 rounds against Holly Holm, and she did end up getting the decision win. And you're comparing that to Pennington. When Holm was supposed to be like the pretty clear next title contender for Amanda Nunes, it's kind of like, I just don't really see where Pennington fits into all of this. Yeah, so I think Ketlin Vieta is a pretty clear favorite going into this. And clearly, if that ends up being the case, we've got a lot of profit to talk about. That's for sure, because the odds are sitting at minus 123 right now for Ketlin Vieta to win. And like I said, that's a bit strange considering what I just said. Like I said, she seems to be the next clear, like if she wins this fight, she is very clearly the next title contender. I mean, I don't really know what other way you could be going with it, unless you're talking about, we obviously, Shevchenko going up, maybe Tyler Santos going up, somebody like that happening, some kind of fight like that. But I mean, in terms of the actual who's at 135, I don't think there's any other person that we would even be talking about other than Ketlin Vieta. So, I mean, I don't really know how you could go in the Pennington direction based on anything that we've seen at all. So yeah, I don't know. I think Vieta is the pretty clear choice here. But yeah, minus 123 looks like a steal to me right now. Pennington plus 100. Yeah, I think there's a lot of money on Vieta right now. It just makes a lot more sense. My nose is very itchy. Oh man. Oh, I don't know why that's so itchy. Um, the over under, I got super distracted by that. Wow, it's very irritating. Um, the over under minus 367 for the over 2.5, plus 260 for the under 2.5. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how you could, again, just like picking the winner, I honestly don't know how you could go any other way than that. Neither one of them really have any finishes whatsoever. So it's kind of like, this is almost guaranteed to be a decision. Minus 367. Throw that in a parlay for sure. Over, under, over 2.5, minus 367. You know, go with it. Go with it. That's all I got to say. Next fight, Punahele, Soriano, Roman Kopolov. That's a very close one, I gotta say. The odds also are very close on this one, a little more one-sided than the one we just talked about, but still pretty close. And that makes a lot of sense because honestly, we haven't really seen a whole lot from either one of these guys necessarily. I don't think any either one of them has really done anything to stand out. That being said, I think Soriano is the pretty clear choice going into it just because of the way that I don't know, like I said, it is very close, but Kopilov, he's only got one UFC win. I think he was 1-2 or something like that. And he was finished in one of those fights. And his win was a decision. Whereas Soriano hasn't been finished, only lost in the UFC, only lost in decisions, which by the way, one of them was a split decision, and he's got a couple of finishes. They are very close, but Soriano just seems slightly better. And I gotta say, when I watched their both of their last fights, really, Soriano, I mean, got a finish. I mean, really, but the one with Maximov, I mean, he's just so big. He's so difficult to control, and he's so strong that I just don't know how Kopilov is gonna overcome that. And I do think it's close. But Kopilov, I think the loss, I didn't write it down, but I remember thinking, okay, the guy who he lost to kind of similar to Soriano in a way. So, it's a close one, but Soriano does seem like the right choice. And he is also the favorite, minus 160. Also, I should say, decision. They're both in a lot of decisions. So decision makes a lot of sense. Although I will say, because Soriano has been getting some finishes, and like I said, Kopilov did get finished. Wouldn't be all that insane for Soriano to get a knockout specifically. He is more of a knockout kind of guy. Wouldn't be crazy to say that Soriano's gonna get a knockout. But I'm going with the decision because it is fairly close, I would say. Minus 160, like I said, Soriano. I think that's the pretty clear way to go. I don't think I'd put it in a parlay though, but minus 160, just the straight up bet there for sure. Kopilov plus 130, as we said, pretty close. Over under 2.5. That's what it's at right now. They are favoring the under, I guess, like I said, because Soriano does have a couple of knockouts. Kopilov, I don't remember. I don't think he got knocked out though. I think when he was finished in the UFC, it was actually a submission. I think. I think. Remember, I did check these last night, but I don't remember fully on this one. So, I'm still seeing a decision as more likely. So plus 116 for over 2.5. There's more money in that one for sure. Under 2.5, I mean, like I said, a finish is plausible for sure, but there's more money on plus 116. And that actually, to me, seems like a slightly more likely outcome anyway. So that's what I'd be going with on that one. Soriano decision. Co-main event. This is where it gets way more interesting. Dan Ige. Love Dan Ige. You gotta love Ige. What a guy. 50K Ige, which by the way is one of the best nicknames. It's so simple, yet perfect. 50K Ige. Rolls off the tongue. Incredible. Love that nickname. Against, is it Damon? Yeah, Damon Jackson. There's so many Jacksons, you never know. Damon Jackson. I gotta say, I mean, the odds are very close on this one too. I think it's also pretty close, but I gotta say, the momentum of the one guy seems to be way overshadowing what the other guy's been doing. This one is a very tough one, though. I really got to say, it is a very tough one to pick. And it's very, very interesting, this one. Dan Ige has lost, I believe, 3 in a row now. all to people who were out grappling him. That is the main thing to remember here. Korean Zombie out grappled him. Iavloyev wildly out grappled him, but I mean that's also Mavsar is just incredibly good in general. But so I mean I don't think that was all that surprising, but yeah, Ige definitely more so known as a stand-up fighter. He does, we've heard a few times now. We actually even heard this in the last matchup that he wrestles a lot. He's got some good grappling too. But you know what? I can't you can't argue with the fact that we literally have not seen that. I mean, 3 matchups in a row against grapplers, lost to all 3 of them. He's going against a grappler again. Like I feel like we kind of know what's going to be happening. I'm not happy about it cuz I like Ige. I'm not even really much of a Jackson fan either, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. There's something about I don't know. I don't know. I just haven't become that Jackson fan yet. But I gotta say, not a good matchup for Ige on this one. Another a 4th grappler in a row. It's rough. It's definitely rough. That being said, this is Ige's best chance to win because if he because I mean, let's be honest. Jackson is not Iavloyev. He's not the Korean Zombie, and I can't even remember the third person that Ige lost to, honestly, off the top of my head right now. But he's not that guy either. But so I don't know. Like he's not ranked. He's not actually. I don't think he's ranked anyway. I don't think he would be because Ige is barely clinging on to the rankings. So, you know, that's a tough one. It's a tough one. Yeah, because it's the right style to beat Ige once again, but Ige, he's been fighting tougher competitors than Jackson, and they were somewhat close. So he's got a chance. He's got a pretty good chance, but I don't know. I just don't like that style matchup. It's just not. It hasn't been going well for Ige with that kind of style. So I gotta just go. I gotta go with Jackson on this one. But if you go with Ige, I wouldn't hold it against you. I do think it's very close on this one. But like I said, the style of Jackson is exactly the same as what he's been having a problem with. And he's just as relentless as these other guys. He will never stop going for these takedowns. And as soon as he gets you down, he's going to keep you there. And he's going for submissions too, but he's also just very good at holding people down. So I can't say that I've seen that Ige can stop that yet. Could he have improved since the last time? I'm sure he has improved, but has he improved enough to deal with that kind of style yet again? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. So that's why I've got to go with Jackson on this. And considering he is a slight underdog on this, there's definitely a lot more room, a little bit more room for profit on the Jackson side too, as well. So, I mean, I think just from a betting standpoint as well, Jackson would make a lot more sense. Also, again, you got to consider the momentum. We talked about this with Nurmagomedov as well, and Ketlin Vieira actually a little bit too. Although Pennington hasn't really lost a whole lot, but it's one of those things where it really does matter. It really does make a difference. The momentum does make a difference. 3 losses in a row, that makes a difference. So I'm going with Jackson on this one. Plus 100 looks good. The over under is at 2.5. They are going the over 2.5. I can't really argue with that at all. I don't think either one of them is going to get a finish. Ige could get a knockout, but I don't think we did actually. I think Jackson did get knocked out. I think it said by Topuria. I think that's what it was saying. I can't, again, tough to remember, but I think I remember seeing Topuria on somebody's resume recently in this card. I think it was for Jackson though. It could have been easily Ige too though, but I don't think it was. So but again, that's Topuria knocking him out. That's not Ige knocking him. So I don't know. I gotta think that this has got to be going into the over 2.5 territory. I would I'd be comfortable putting money on the minus 172 for over 2.5. It's also a good betting line too. It's nothing crazy. It's not in the 200 something range, which is why I was so surprised. I'm looking at it again. That Umar Nurmagomedov Barcelos line so high, minus 260 at over 2.5, when this one itself is at minus 172, which makes a lot more sense to be going the 3 rounds. I don't know. So yeah, the betting line's a little weird today on a couple of these. The under 2.5 plus 133, I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, I'm going with the minus 172 over 2.5. As for who you would pick on that, like I said, pretty even. Got to go with the plus money on this one, though. Main event, Sean Strickland again, and Nassourdine Imavov. This one is also pretty close. And I mean, based on what we saw right at the end of that last event, I mean, with Sean Strickland, he can get these decisions, folks. I mean, even if he doesn't deserve it, he can get it. He got it on one of the cards. It was a split decision. As baffling as that is, he still got it. So I mean, there's always a chance for him to win because that's just his style. He makes it really close for that exact reason. He didn't deserve the win at all there, but he still was one on one of the judges' cards. So, this is going to be close. I got to say, though, this is actually probably Strickland, like the ideal scenario for Strickland. It really is because, I mean, Imavov was expecting a fight against Gastelum, who's not really the same kind of fighter at all. Actually, I wouldn't say nobody's really that similar to Strickland. So already that favors Strickland for sure, especially with the size, because Strickland is much bigger than Gastelum. I mean, it's not even really all that close. Well, especially especially in terms of height and length. I mean, it's not really close. Size, though, but so already that favors Strickland. What also favors Strickland is that this is the exact kind of fight he wants. He loves last minute fights. He loves just fighting in general. And again, that does not favor the person who was expecting a different opponent, who was coming in to fight a specific person in Imavov, whereas Strickland doesn't care. He fights on a daily basis. He spars all the time. He said that quite often. So he literally just fights all the time. And he doesn't wear 12-ounce gloves or whatever. He's fighting in those MMA UFC gloves. So I mean, he's literally fighting almost every single day. So I mean, the cardio is not going to be a problem. The opponent's not necessarily, I don't think, going to be too much of a problem. I think this heavily, heavily favors Strickland. I really do, especially when you consider the fact that Imavov, his win was against Buckley. I thought it was Buckley, but I had to check there. It was against Buckley in Paris, which, I mean, Buckley was actually doing really well to the point where I thought he was actually going to steal the fight away for one. So that's already not a good look. Because that's not the same caliber. Like Strickland is so much better than somebody like Buckley. And again, I like Buckley too, but there's huge gaps in you know in skill there. Like there's just not the same thing at all. So I mean, I just don't know how you could even argue that this is somewhat. I mean, I guess yes, it's close because Strickland makes every fight close. But even if in a 3-rounder, that's how I should really be saying this. In a 3-rounder, this would be very close. But I don't know, a 5-rounder, I mean, that heavily once again, heavily favors Strickland because that's what he does. That's his fighting style. And I just don't think that Imavov is gonna get 3 rounds on the cards against Strickland, and that's all it comes down to. I don't see a finish. I don't really see a finish coming from either guy. So, I mean, listen, if Cannonier couldn't finish Strickland, you're Imavov isn't gonna finish Strickland, and I mean, like, I just don't see where that comes in. So, for me, at that point, it's like, well, if we're not seeing a finish, who's gonna win in a 5-round fight? We literally just saw Strickland in a 5-round fight almost beat Jared Cannonier. And if you think that if you think that Imavov is close to Cannonier, I don't know what you've been watching because he is definitely not. So, I mean, I don't really think this is as close as the odds suggest. I am heavily favoring Strickland in this. I really do think he has a much better chance of winning this fight, but I don't know. I that's the way I'm going with it. And on the odds, like I said, pretty much dead even. Plus 100 for Strickland, minus 120 for Imavov. I'm going Strickland all day on that. Again, there's just so much going in Strickland's way on this. Also, I even need to mention, like, I should probably actually, yeah, I probably should mention that Strickland is from Vegas. He didn't even have to travel for this. He literally trains across the street at the gym right there. He doesn't even have to travel. There's no there's no massive weight cut here. There's literally nothing. There's nothing negative about this for Strickland. Every single piece of this fits perfectly into what Strickland would want to do. So I and especially when Imavov was planning to fight at 185 and this fight is now at 205. They changed it so that Strickland could be bigger in this fight. So Strickland is going to be even bigger than he normally is in this fight. So I mean, like, again, that's just factor after factor, everything going towards Strickland. It just seems like a no-brainer. Plus 100, I'm throwing money on that all day. Over under is at 4.5, and it's actually dead even right now. It's minus 105, so they're actually both minus money. Like I said, pretty much even. Minus 105 for over 4.5, minus 123 for under 4.5. Like I said, I mean, it's gonna be a decision. I just don't really see it going any other way. I mean, unless something crazy happens, which it could. But I think if this fight plays out exactly how we think it's going to, which the exact same fight just played out less than a month ago. We just saw this. That was, and that was even, I should even point out, that was way more favored to finish under 4.5. I forget what the betting line was. I don't even think it was 4.5. It was like 3.5 or something, wasn't it? It was something like that. Because I remember thinking, I was like, that is definitely favoring a finish here, from what I remember. I could be completely wrong about that. But anyway, so, and like I said, Cannonier didn't get a finish. And Imavov's not going to get a finish. Strickland is definitely not going to get a finish. So to me, this whole matchup screams Strickland over 4.5. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah. And by the way, even if you don't see it towards Strickland, I think you'd still probably have to see it as over 4.5. So even if you disagree, like, okay, last minute fight, or maybe Imavov is a better grappler and he's going to control him like that, which, by the way, I don't think is really that true. Because he barely beat Buckley like that, and Buckley, I don't, anyway. And again, remember, Strickland's coming in. We're doing a 205 matchup now, not a 185. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. I had a point that I was going to say after that, and I can't remember now. Strickland, minus 107. Oh, yeah, that even if you don't pick Strickland on this one. I would still suggest going for the over 4.5 at -105. Either way. Now we've got the prelims, and to be honest, this is also why it's a really short one, a short show today. I only was really fully interested, at least in terms of you guys, like you should definitely watch this one with one of them. I was kind of only interested in one of them. I'm not going to lie. Cause like there's a lot of debuts happening. I think, was it 4 debuts, 5 debuts, maybe even 6? I can't remember. There's a lot of debuts going on. So, I, I could talk about them because I think some of them look good, but this is really the only one where it's like, oh, this is really interesting. I really like this matchup. And it's because they're both undefeated, for one. That helps a lot. But also, they're both really, really good. Mateus, I think it's Mateus. I don't know. Mateus Mendonça. I love this guy. I mean, I think I didn't watch the fight again. I didn't replay. I should say I didn't rewatch the fight is what I should say. Yesterday, because that's what I usually do. I didn't rewatch it, so I can't remember. But I think this was the guy with the blue hair, and honestly, best blue hair I've ever seen. I wish I could grow hair like that, so I could have that exact blue hair. But sadly, that's not for me. But I think that was him. But anyway, even outside the hair, which is a huge for me, obviously being blue, but the skill, Mendonça looked very, very good. I think he won in what was it? I think it was less than a minute. But even in that minute, I was like, "Oh, this guy's good. This guy is very, very good." But on the other side of this matchup, Javid Basharat of the Basharat brothers, of course, also undefeated, just like his brother, of course. And yeah, that is in the prelims, which, by the way, actually, no. I was going to say, by the way, I think that should actually probably be on the main card, or at the very least, the featured prelim. I stand by the featured prelim. That should be the featured prelim for sure. But yeah, no, probably not the main card, because the main card, some pretty well-known names on there. Anyway, very, very good fight. And this is at, I believe, 125, I think. 125 or 135. I think it's 125, though. I'll probably be able to tell no, I can't. But yeah, man, this is a good matchup. That being said, I do agree with who the favorite is, and that's Javid Basharat. I mean, he's undefeated, and honestly, I think he's gone against better people. He just beat Tony Gravely, who I would actually say should be ranked as well. I think Basharat should be ranked, and I think Gravely should probably be pretty close to being ranked because he's very, very good. And even though he's so good, Basharat kind of dominated him and easily won that fight. So, I mean, I just don't think Mendonca's capable of even what Gravely's capable of. So I do think that Basharat is going to win this. That being said, like I said, very exciting fighter in terms of Mendonça. And Basharat, very, very skilled. Huge. I'm very into these Basharat brothers. They are very skilled. They're very good. So I'm going with the Basharat on this one. I actually haven't picked against a Basharat brother yet. Even on the contender series, I've gone Basharat all the way just because they're so good. And they're still undefeated, so I haven't been wrong yet. I don't want to jinx it, obviously. I have a bad habit of jinxing it, but I am going with Basharat on this. Keep the undefeated streak alive. Also, like I said, he beat Tony Gravely. He beat Trevin Jones, and I don't know that Mendonça. I mean, he's been in the ring in the octagon for less than a minute. We don't know if Mendonça is up to that same standard. I personally don't think he is, but again, haven't seen it, so we don't really know for sure. But like I said, you got to go with the known quantity in this one. The undefeated, proven known quantity in this one, Javid Basharat. Makes way more sense to go with that. And he is a fairly significant favorite, minus 350. for Basharat, plus 266 for Mendonça. This would be one that I would be throwing in a parlay because I really do put a lot of faith in both of these Basharat brothers because they're both incredibly good. And I will even freely admit I was actually a little bit worried when actually that last matchup was going on, Gravely and Basharat. I almost went with Gravely. I was so close. I was like, oh man, Gravely's so good, but Basharat is also, undefeated, very, very good. I went with Basharat on that one, cashed out on that one, did very well. I got to go with him again, especially in considering I think this is a slight step down in competition. Makes sense. Basharat. Over under is at 2.5. -123 for over 2.5, -106 for under 2.5. This one, that's where it gets really tough. And I think that's actually why it's at even money. I don't know. I'm going with the finish on this one. There's actually the only one that I'm talking about today where I gave out a finish. Even though I could see, like I said, I could see a finish for Nurmagomedov, could see a finish for, was there anybody else? Soriano, I could see that. But yeah, I really could easily see a Basharat finish coming here. I think the only guy that he didn't finish in the UFC was Gravely. I think he, oh no, actually no, I think he did get decision wins over Jones and Gravely. But Basharat does have a lot of finishes. If Mendonça comes out just as strong as he usually does, he might get caught in something. People like that tend to get caught quite a bit. Although he is undefeated, like I said, people like that who tend to start off really hard, that's how they win. So they get a lot of first, second round finishes. And then when it gets into the later ones, especially when they get into more skilled people, then they end up getting finished because they can't maintain that pace anymore. That happens quite a bit. So could we see that here and him get and Basharat get a finish? Definitely, definitely. Which is why I went with the finish. Second, third round makes a lot of sense. So I'm going with the finish, but at -106, under 2.5, I think that's actually pretty good. So that's the direction I'm going in. But I could very easily see this being another decision because, like I said, Basharat has, I believe, only been in decisions in the UFC from what I remember. Again, didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure I remember on that one. So yeah, I'm going with the under 2.5, -106. And I'm going for Basharat. And that is it. I told you, nice short show on this one. But I will go with, whoopsie, that was my laptop. I will, of course, go with my parlays on this one. I do actually want to say one matchup that is confusing me a little bit when I opened the odds before the show here. Cachoeira and Eubanks. Are you kidding me right now? Like I was actually gonna put this I was gonna put that matchup to talk about because I was so impressed. I'm so impressed by Cachoeira constantly. She's so good. And then I open this up and she's a massive underdog against Eubanks. What? Like, are you kidding me? I can't remember Cachoeira's record right now, but I mean, she knocked out Ariane Lipski in like a minute and a half, which, by the way, I fully predicted. I specifically said that going into this. It's not going to be good for Lipski. And she's insanely good. She's very, very good. Cachoeira is very, very good. I honestly do think she should. I think she even might be ranked. If not, she deserves to be like 10 to 15, somewhere in that range, or maybe 12 to 15. And Eubanks is what? I think she's 7-7 or 7-6 now. And she's been losing to definitely worse people than that. Yeah, I am actually baffled. I am blown away by this betting line. Minus 240. Minus 240 for Eubanks, who hasn't done anything recently. Anything. Nothing. And Cachoeira just got a knockout in like a minute and a half against Lipsky, who people were thinking is going to be the next top 10 in the division. So it's like, what what planet am I living on that this is minus 240 for Eubanks? I honestly don't even really think, like, I was actually going to put Cachoeira in a parlay. I think I actually did put her in a parlay. I'm not going to lie. I think I actually did. Um, so I might actually have to change that because now I'm getting scared. But that being said, I don't change my pick though. Plus 190. I'm going with plus 190 on this one. Normally, again, I don't do things that where I don't write the notes down for it. I didn't write my notes down for it. But I do remember specifically yesterday thinking like, oh, maybe I'll talk about Cachoeira. That would be a good pick. Maybe a good one for a parlay. I think she's pretty solid in this one. Yeah, blown away by these odds. And I mean, we've seen that a lot, especially in the women's side, where these huge underdogs actually win fairly often. So I really would not be surprised if Cachoeira goes crazy on this one and gets the plus 190 underdog ticket. Yeah, I really do think there's a pretty solid chance that Cachoeira is going to win this one. So I'm a little surprised, honestly, for that. But yeah, in actual terms of the parlays, obviously, probably not putting Cachoeira in it now because I'm so thrown off by that. Maybe there's something that I don't know. Johnson and Flick. I thought this would be a little bit closer because Flick is very good. That weirds me out a little bit that the betting lines are so far apart. Again, that weirds me out just like the Eubanks one. Minus 350 for Johnson. I will say I do agree. I do think he's going to win. But minus 350 and plus 266. I mean, Jimmy Flick's pretty good. So I don't know about that. But, I'd be comfortable throwing that in the parlay for sure. Minus 350 for Johnson. Argueta, yeah, I mean, minus 567. I'm throwing that in the parlay all day. Nascimento, I believe I had him as well. Minus 350. That's another good one. Basharat, minus 350. That's fantastic. Rebecki, I mean, holy shit, is this guy good? So minus 800. That's fair. Yeah, he's gonna win for sure. So yeah, minus 800. Again, not really adding a whole lot of value, just like the Nurmagomedov one. I mean, if you add both of them to most of your bets, you can maybe bump up the odds a little bit for your parlay, but you know, like, is it really worth just the slight risk? I mean, there's always that slight chance. There's always that slight chance that they lose. So minus 1,000 and minus 800. I don't really know if that's worth it to throw in most of the parlays. Minus 800, probably. Minus 1,000 when it's even already a pretty close fight. I don't know. And then after that, I'm not sure if I would throw Vieira, in the parlays. Definitely staying away from the last three matchups. Although Strickland, not a bad idea for maybe one of those, a couple of the parlays, just to throw him in there because I think that really bumps up the value quite a bit. Yeah, weird betting lines this week, I gotta say. Because I would say the ones that are actually really far apart don't deserve to be that far apart. I really don't think so. So I'm not really sure what's happening on these betting lines this week. This is pretty unusual, and I think it definitely could have something to do with the fact that that we've been off for almost a month. So maybe people were putting their bets down already and they saw, okay, these are all the favorites. I'll put money down on that. That definitely could be because yeah, I gotta say these are unusual for sure. Unusual betting lines that you wouldn't normally see in these cases. Yeah. But anyway, that's it. Those are my parlays. Those are my picks. A nice, quick show to open the year. And yeah, so Saturday, I will get rid of my banner now. Yes. So Saturday, we will see how this plays out. I'm excited that the UFC is back, of course. Not necessarily a fantastic card. It's not like, oh man, I'm really looking forward to this card. I was really looking forward to the Shavkat fight. So that kind of bugs me. But yeah, what can you do? But next week, is where it goes off the rails. I cannot wait for next week, the pay-per-view. You've got the title fight, Jamal Hill, Glover Teixeira. That's going to be amazing. Maybe seeing Jamal Hill. That's my pick. Spoiler alert. I'm going with Jamal Hill. Figgy Moreno 4. Finally, we get to close. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to watch it. Obviously, I'm excited to see that. I love both of them. They're both so good. But I want to see them fight other people. So, did it really need to happen? I don't know, but pretty exciting either way. Can't wait to see that. Then we've got Terrence McKinney back, about to absolutely murder somebody. I mean, that is not even going to be remotely close. I feel so bad. I think he's fighting Bonfim. I like Bonfim. They're the Bonfim brothers. Honestly, I just love the sibling pairs in general because I think that's so cool. But I mean, I fully agree. I don't even remember how McKinney said it, but on the MMA Hour, because again, I just started watching that the last month. I love it. But yeah, I mean, these people really are not on his level at all. He is very clearly a top 15, maybe even a top 10, honestly, kind of fighter. He's that good. So it's kind of like, really, we're giving him Bonfim in Brazil. Do you want the crowd to riot? Like, this Brazilian is going to get absolutely mauled in less than a round by McKinney. It is not going to be close. Anyway, can't wait to see McKinney again. So that's 3 fight. I mean, Shogun Hua probably doing his last fight. What other fights are there? I mean, there's so many. There's so many really good ones next week. I can't wait for that. But we got to get through this week first. So anyway, that's what we're looking forward to. Super excited. That's it for me. Area 51 has got you on all the other sports. That's always linked below. And of course, actually, I always forget to mention that. I'm actually doing my show on their Twitter account too. So it's not like, anyway. My Twitter is also down there. My socials are down there. Insta, Twitter. That's all down there. What am I forgetting? I think that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. If anybody still watches, I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying over here. I'm trying. I've got a lot of other stuff going on too. But in MMA, by the way. So if anybody really is still watching this and hears this, I do have a lot of stuff that I'm planning to release soon with MMA. Can't fully talk about it yet because I don't know when I'm going to be done it. But anyway, nice little Easter egg for people that are actually somehow listening this long. That being said, and if you are, I love you so much because there's probably only 2 of you, maybe 1 of you. I love you so much. So I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Great to be back here for another year. Will I last the whole year? I don't know, but I'm determined to keep going and keep pushing through. Very excited for next week with the pay-per-view. I will. Whoops. Oh, wow. Now I did all that talking, and now I forgot my fucking playoff and outro. Jesus. Thanks for watching. See you next time.